Before the video starts, I just want to say that there are so many aesthetics in CORES, so in this video I will be talking about the ones that resonate the most with me, the ones that I found the most interesting, and also some very weird ones. The order in which I decided to talk about them is not relevant, but I did try to start from the most basic ones and to end with some of the more obscure aesthetics. With that being said, please enjoy this absolute madness of a video. Phase 1. Basic CORES. Aesthetics or CORES are images, objects, places, colors, basically something that conveys a feeling or an emotion. Let's take for example the seasons, right? Winter, spring, summer, autumn, we all know them, we love them. Personally, I find winter core to be the most fitting for me because of, the snow, Christmas, nostalgia, but I think that all of them bring their own different energies, like autumn being the start of school or summer for the long holiday. And that brings us to our next entry, which is the holiday CORES. This refers to Christmas, Halloween, Easter, Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody has nice memories with at least one of them. In my country, we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving or Halloween, but I always liked watching all the American movies or shows that took place in this time period to kind of experience myself these holidays. I'm a big nerd, I know. I'm sorry. Pastel is a soft, dreamy visual style. Think baby pinks, powder blues, mint greens, and buttery yellows. It evokes a sense of calm, nostalgia, and gentle whimsy. This core is associated with little kids' drawings and youth in general. Holographic is futuristic, high shine, I'm talking rainbow shifting surfaces, millions of soft colors. It evokes a sense of otherworldly tech and modern glamour, often blending metallic with translucent or reflective materials. Minimalism refers to clean designs. The art movement has had a significant influence on minimalism as a lifestyle, which is a rejection of consumerist trends with an emphasis on simple living.
Look, I have Tony Hawk here, I have video games, I have Percy Jackson, I have random stuff here, I have Freddy Fazbear.
A minimalistic setup would be no ornaments, no Percy Jackson, no furniture, no bed. Perfect. Kawaii is the Japanese word for cute. It's all about things that look sweet, tiny, or squishy. This style is mainly associated with the colors pink, purple, and white, and can be commonly seen in anime. Academia. Here we have multiple combinations, like Dark Academia, take for example the Harry Potter movies, or Light Academia, Chaotic Academia, My Hero Academia. It focuses on creating a beautiful environment where the main purpose is studying and reading. It also makes school life feel like it's not all boring, but filled with mysteries and treasures. Royal Core. This one focuses on castles, gold jewelry, beautiful dresses, and old money. Really reminds me of the Disney movie Descendants, if you've seen that, where you can see a contrast between Royal Core and punk, I think. This aesthetic is one of those very beautiful ones that is very hard to find in real life today, seeing how every castle has been transformed in a museum and doesn't have that spacious feel because it's crowded with people. This style also incorporates nature in the form of beautiful gardens or indoor plants. High school dream is an aesthetic that glorifies high school culture, usually American high schools, and every aspect of it, such as cheerleaders, lockers, school bathrooms, yellow school buses, high school parties, prom, baseball or soccer fields. This can be seen in Disney TV shows, Stranger Things, Cobra Kai. I think everybody looked forward to this kind of school life while we were kids, and when we finally reached high school, we realized that it's nothing like that. It's just exams, grumpy teachers, homework all day, that kind of stuff. Nostalgia core is obviously about nostalgic memories, maybe a park that you played in when you were young, maybe the street that you grew up on, or maybe a screenshot of a video game that you played 6 years ago. This is one of the broader aesthetics because it can be anything. If it's nostalgic to you, then it's nostalgia core. Grandparent core is a type of aesthetic about the lifestyle of the older generation. The old wooden furniture, the lamps, old clothes, ugly rugs, weird art they have around the house. Now, this core can use warm colors and lovely themes, or can be on the sadder side, with death or the inevitable passing of time being the main theme. Regardless, nostalgia is present here as well. Older brother core is an aesthetic based on the stereotypical objects and traits associated with teenage older boys in the early 2000s. This includes game consoles, energy drinks, rebelliousness, rock music, wall posters. I don't have any siblings, but I do have older friends, and this is what it felt like when I went to their house. It's like seeing what you will unlock in the future in a way when you grow up, you know? Western core is all about the cowboy lifestyle. It has earth and sand browns, orange sunsets, and elements such as cowboy hats, horses, leather, cactuses, and tumbleweeds, guns, cigarettes, and alcohol. Tropical core is an aesthetic that is based on the exotic regions of the world. The style is characterized by warm, soothing themes and colors drawn mostly from natural elements such as the sea, sky, and vegetation, plants, fruits, flowers, etc. Hues may be deep and rich or may fall on the lighter, brighter side. Urban core is an aesthetic based on imagery of cities and street life. Urban core is associated to real-life modern-day society and almost always is based on recent decades. As it is a really broad aesthetic, it can revolve around city streets, architecture, graffiti, skate parks at night, and urban fashion. Suburbia is an aesthetic that originated in the 1940s, which represents American suburban life, characterized by single-family homes, neighborhoods, community spaces, and rituals of daily life. Stranger Things, again, is a perfect example for this core. I live in a suburbia myself, and even though I don't touch grass much, it does have beautiful views, and it is the perfect combination between human structures and nature. Campcore revolves around camping and camping activities such as hiking, fishing, and stargazing. It focuses on connecting with nature and enjoying the forest or other natural landforms around you. I have never really been camping, but I always wanted to, and I always thought it was like the coolest thing if you could do it with friends. Sadly, none of my friends want to do it, so I'll just look at images on the internet. Cottagecore is an aesthetic inspired by a romanticized interpretation of agricultural life, particularly in the pre-industrial era. It centers on ideas of simple living and harmony with nature. Other themes include self-sufficiency, domestic labor, and caring for people. This has got to be one of my favorites. Like many on this iceberg, it has a strong feeling of nostalgia, and it reminds me of a much simpler time when I was a kid. Cabin core embraces the idea of getting away from industrial life, favoring places where days can be spent in a more remote setting. The aesthetic features a rustic, relaxing, warm theme. Again, I love mountains, I love nature. This is a wonderful core. It has that feeling of sitting in a wooden cabin near the fireplace, no technology, just admiring the surroundings. Coffinwood is similar, but it's much darker, moody. It involves themes of death and revolves around the idea that the world has gone insane. You can typically find this kind of scenery near the mountains and in very old/abandoned towns. Lo-fi became very popular recently because of the relaxing music genre or the YouTube channel Lo-Fi Girl. As a visual, it usually involves cartoons, soft and warm colors, old tapes, fireplaces. Basically, it's an environment where you can feel comfortable, safe, and like home. Cartoon core is, as the title suggests, the aesthetic of old animation, VHS tapes, lost media, Studio Ghibli, and cartoons in general. This really hits because as a kid I watched a lot of television, and it's so cool to remember these experiences I had with Cartoon Network, Disney, Nickelodeon. Fantasy is another broad aesthetic because it encompasses anything fantasy related. Books, movies, concepts, old tales, legends, mysteries. Some very standard compositions include weird trees, mountains, castles, magic, mystical forests. Some famous media portrayals are Harry Potter, Ancient Gods, The Legend of Zelda, Percy Jackson. Okay, I'm sorry. Witch/fairy/wizard core are complementary aesthetics very similar to fantasy but focus more on the magic and mystery side. You can usually see wooden objects, treasure chests, fireplaces, potions, as well as a strong connection with nature and otherworldly supernatural powers. Witchcore exists in the mysterious and the arcane. Think moonlit woods, herb bundles, ink dark fabrics, and talismans. Wizard Core feels more scholarly and structured, brass instruments, star charts, cloaks, and candlelit studies where logic meets magic. Fairy Core, by contrast, is airy and light-hearted, pastel petals, meadows, wings, twinkling lights, and a sense of childlike wonder. Phase 2. More obscure aesthetics. Indie is another broad aesthetic, short for independent art. This basically means that whatever you make, even if it's a photo, a song, a drawing, your art will always have a place to exist. In recent years, the public shifted from creations made by soulless corporations to more independent artists. As an artist, I guess I fall into this category. My art is at most okay, but it's mine and I'm proud of it. Pixelscape is a core centered around pixel art, usually from a bird's eye view. It can portray cities, societies, interior design, characters, you name it. It has a video game-y kind of aesthetic and is very elaborate and detailed. MLG. If you're a 2000s kid, you probably know this one. In 2010, every video used to have crazy edits with this style. It's basically Gen Z's version of brainrot memes. This usually used elements such as pixel sunglasses, Mountain Dew, Illuminati, Doritos, no-scope hit markers, Nyan Cat, the wow guy, the nice guy, and a lot of other BS. But hey, that's my childhood. Cubism is a 1900s art movement that used a lot of straight lines, different perspectives, and out-of-the-box thinking. This is one of my favorite art styles because it's so different from what we used to think art was. It is very revolutionary and truly an interesting concept. Memphis design is another very different aesthetic from the 80s Italy. Even though it uses lots of lines, it's a non-linear style, meaning that you cannot predict it. It uses different shapes, colors, structures, perspectives. Constructivism is a Russian art movement from the 1920s that combines mechanical objects with modern architecture and abstract shapes. In design, it usually uses the colors red, white, and black. I always loved art that looked different, that pushes the boundaries, and this is no different. Truly something remarkable. Imaginarium is an aesthetic that attempts to capture and illustrate the look and feel of pure unclouded imagination and total creative freedom. Though not inherently childish or aimed at children, Imaginarium does take on many childlike qualities such as the use of playroom-type environments, vibrant colors, and well-known fantastical motifs. Surrealism aimed to revolutionize human experience by rejecting rationalism and embracing the power of unconsciousness and dreams. It sought to merge dream and reality to create a super reality. This aesthetic takes inspiration from nature and myths, resulting in works that often depicted illogical scenes and dreamlike ideas. Y2K is one of the most known aesthetics, but I'ma be honest, I really didn't know what this was until I researched for this video. It's a type of futuristic utopian core. Designs usually feature thick lines, bold minimalism, and heavy use of iconography. CGI art is more blobby looking, having more gradients, and it usually uses chrome colors, icy blue and gray. Also, apparently this water park in China resembles this style. Vector flourish/bloom is characterized by the use of vectors, flower patterns, occasional vague nature iconography, and abstract imagery. I have seen such designs in restaurants, hotels, and I can't remember exactly where, but I'm sure I've seen some advertisements when I was a kid that used design like this. Retrofuturism is an aesthetic that visualizes the future through the lens of a past era's technological and cultural understanding. This core combines old-fashioned with futuristic technology. In the 19th century, this was probably the dream. It was a positive outlook on the future, maybe even a utopia. While this still remains a possibility for how our future society will look, I think we are headed in a different direction. Cyberpunk. This aesthetic encapsulates a dystopian future where technology is everywhere. It is not a tool anymore, it is our life. While the imagery looks beautiful and colorful, the main themes of this core consist in loneliness, depression, death of human connection, and even of humanity. While this still is a far in the future case, if you look at the more developed countries such as Japan, China, or the US, you can kind of see that this might not be just an average aesthetic, but more of an upcoming reality. For the next category, we have something that I like to call the punks. They all have similar themes, that being how will our future look. Biopunk is similar to cyberpunk but focuses more on genetic engineering, biohacking, and basically upgrading your body with different modifications. Steampunk often explores the idea of what would have happened if society built upon steam as a primary energy source and not electricity. A famous example here kinda is Arcane, for the imagery, not the concept. Dieselpunk is exactly like steampunk, but now everything focuses on diesel, war, and metal structures. Decopunk has a sleeker and shiny aesthetic compared to dieselpunk, which has a tendency to be more gritty and dark. Think of something like a futuristic Gotham City. Solarpunk focuses on renewable energy, living in harmony with nature and a better future. This would be one of the more positive looks on our future, but one that seems extremely hard to achieve given our current circumstances. Lunarpunk is considered to be the sibling of Solarpunk, but it embraces spirituality and utopian futures, referencing witchcraft, futuristic design, nature, renewable energy, and the circle of life. Stonepunk asks the question, what if we didn't evolve? Or rather, what if we evolved differently? It's hard to imagine a future where we didn't discover electricity or technology, but that is exactly what Stonepunk is. Adampunk often depicts imagery associated with traditionally American values. It does not center itself around a utopian future, but rather a dystopian nightmare usually. Famous examples are Fallout or even some scenes in Star Wars. Seapunk is very similar to Vaporwave, which I will talk about later, but focuses only on the sea and uses different shades of blue. Slimepunk, as you can guess, it's about green slime, radioactivity, gas masks. Looks cool, but it's not my style. Sandalpunk is again an alternate dimension where the history played differently, where the Romans and the Greeks got access to magic, weaponry, and other special powers. Kind of like Percy Jackson? I'm just saying. Junkpunk focuses on technology and culture based on an unusual source, scavenged junk. Weapons, tools, clothing, and sometimes entire cities will be built out of repurposed/recycled materials. Famous example, Wall-E, Star Wars, Fallout, and Five Nights at Freddy's. Shibuya Punk is an aesthetic based on various media that surrounds inline skating, graffiti, and street gangs in a contemporary or near-future urban setting. This core can be usually seen in stereotypical Japan and in some video games. Cyberprep is a term referring to a society that has developed in the same aspects of cyberpunk, but towards a utopian direction, with fair law and no world controlling corporations. If cyberpunk touched upon themes of depression and loneliness, cyberprep has a positive outlook on society and usually expresses prosperity and good lifestyles. Liminal. I won't even get into this. This one is the most popular thing on the internet. For short, it's nostalgic places devoid of people, uncanny places, familiar places, the backrooms, cane pixels. I will make a video about this, don't worry, moving on. After Hours. This one is pretty basic, but it's still very cool. So this aesthetic refers to normal places but at night, maybe closed shops, empty streets, dimly lit alleyways. I like this one because it's kind of like liminal but real. If you go out at 3 AM, you will see uncanny places and maybe you will also notice things that you haven't seen before. Brutalism is known for the use of raw, exposed materials, especially unfinished concrete, often has a monumental and imposing appearance with large, blocky shapes. Function is very important in brutalist design, so the buildings are often minimalist, simple, and practical without unnecessary decorations. This core uses mainly gray and washed-up colors and has a very cold and sad feeling attached to it. Soft apocalypse is a concept of society collapsing slowly or post-catastrophe, usually characterized by the decline of technology or abandoned cities full of wildlife. This to me has a really nice vibe to it. It's the contrast between seclusion and also owning the whole world because you are alone and you can do anything. Also, this core doesn't involve necessarily things such as zombies, diseases, it's just the fact that humankind failed in some way, disappeared, and soon you will too. Synthwave and Vaporwave. are aesthetics but also music genres. Vaporwave has been interpreted by many as being a parody of corporate aesthetics and capitalism, though others disagree and instead see it as a celebration of these aesthetics. The genre is not merely a musical experience, but rather a cultural commentary on the rapid pace of technological advancement and the commodification of the past. This is one of my favorites. Why? I couldn't answer, but something in here resonates way too heavily with me. Glowwave. There is not much info about this core on the internet, but as I see it, this basically refers to things that glow in the dark and also the popular 80s arcades and restaurants that use such aesthetics on their wallpaper or carpets. This has an ethereal look, usually uses the cosmos, stars, glow sticks, and very high contrast scenery. Webcore draws inspiration from the visual language of early websites, which often featured animated GIFs, vibrant and sometimes clashing colors, pixelated embossed buttons, neon backgrounds, and underlined blue links. Simple HTML layouts and the use of clip art were also common. A famous example is the old Windows like Windows XP. Clean core is an aesthetic centered around clean objects and environments. This includes items such as antibacterial soaps, UV lights, antiseptic creams, and recently disinfected spaces. It incorporates visuals associated with hygiene and draws inspiration from Frutiger Aero. It is one of my all-time favorite aesthetics of all time. I grew up with this core, and if though I didn't know it then, this is incredible design and such a creative way to describe the world. At least in 2010, or that time when technology was booming and everybody thought we were heading towards a utopia. You could see this design everywhere. When you opened your PC, when you went to your grandparents and they had a soap designed this way, or bathrooms with green and blue tiles. This aesthetic symbolizes evolution, unity, purity, cleanliness, prosperity, and life in general. Such a beautiful and nostalgic aesthetic, man. I really love it. Famous examples are the Nintendo Wii or Wii U, the 3DS, Windows 7, and Super Mario Sunshine. Bloomcore, also known as floral, is an aesthetic based on the theme of flowers, gardens, gardening, and nature. It is usually associated with spring and quiet off-the-grid lifestyles. Riffcore/Riffwave. Again, one of the more obscure aesthetics. You can't really find much info, but it's based on retro designs, antiques, and colorful objects placed underwater. I think a famous example here would be Subnautica, even though it doesn't fully encapsulate the true meaning of Riffcore. It's pretty similar though. Cloudcore is just about clouds, different shapes, sizes, colors, but it's just clouds and usually on 1:1 ratio. That's why it's so interesting. I love clouds, I love airplane shots, but Cloudcore really is that simple. Just clouds. Technocore is an aesthetic that focuses on the advancement of technology throughout the years. This can include very old technology but also futuristic devices. It often has elements of code, old TV screens, vector graphics. I've never seen the movie, but I'm sure the Matrix fits here as well. Phase 3. Phase 3 is about the weirdest aesthetics. There isn't much to say here, it's more about interpretation and the love for art. Glitchcore is about visual glitches and distortion, incorporating heavily saturated colors, rainbows, flashing patterns, pixelation, and eye strain. The aesthetic frequently features characters and artwork from cartoons, anime, and video games. Cyberdelic, also known as cyberdelia, is a term used for the immersion in cyberspace as a psychedelic experience. It was the fusion of cyberculture and the psychedelic subculture into a new counterculture of the late 80s to mid-90s. This core refers to the use of technology as a medium to transcend into a virtual psychedelic landscape. Acid Wave is centered around visuals inspired by depictions of hallucinations caused by hallucinogenic drugs. Visuals have a very melty, psychedelic, and colorful appearance, often drawing upon the tie-dye imagery that was popular in the days of the hippies. Acid Pixie is similar but different, and I don't know how to describe the fact that it's different because they look the same, but they are not the same. They are different but similar, and each is different in the same way, if you get me. Weirdcore, another one of my favorites. It is a variation of liminal spaces but often features heavy photo editing, text, and mystery. Most of such images are up to interpretation because, if I'm being honest, most of them mean nothing. Some of them do have real meanings behind them, but some don't. But hey, I love that kind of stuff. The feeling that they give me is genuinely indescribable in a good way. Moving on. Wonderland heavily relies on Alice in Wonderland. It has a strong focus on the feeling of being lost in a fantastic yet dark world far away from home. But there is also the need to survive in a foreign environment. It's like a battle royale with clowns, fairies, big cats and dragons, so kind of like Fortnite, I guess. Dark Error is an aesthetic which revolves around feelings of being lost and corrupted by an inhuman force. The main emotional idea of it is the theme of corruption and loss of oneself, the physical elements tied to being warped and corrupted under a force one cannot control. It is also used in elements where characters are manipulated and corrupted by a force outside what is understood by humans. Zombie Core. This one is about zombies, the apocalypse, and the end of humankind. In contrast with soft apocalypse where humanity just fades away, this is the exact opposite where humanity gets killed by a force that cannot be contained, such as a virus or a fungus that transforms people in mindless monsters. Cryptid core refers to images of cryptids, which are creatures that have not been discovered yet. Creatures from urban legends, mythical ones. This core is very vast, seeing the fact that there are hundreds of said beings. For short, Bigfoot, Mothman, Yeti, Kraken, stuff like that. Void memes use very graphic imagery to tell usually extremely dark jokes, often involving murder, crimes, and other such themes. A popular example would be Withered Big Justice. Black hole memes is a core that is kind of like brainrot memes, heavily edited images that look nothing like the original. They use multiple layers of irony to the point that they become incomprehensible. Trauma core is a type of imagery that explores themes of abuse and trauma. It often juxtaposes these difficult themes with cute or nostalgic visuals, creating a sense of bittersweet tragedy. Many individuals who have experienced trauma find these images to be a way to process and cope with the past pain. Bastard core is an aesthetic that exists purely just to make you uncomfortable. It doesn't have any main themes, as you can see by the contrast of the images, but I think you get the idea.